Hello, dear students. This is a lecture on market structure. The most important thing here is that we want to define what a market is, and also we want to know the different types of markets that exist in all countries worldwide and throughout history. Here I got this definition of market from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Remember, Wikipedia is a source of information, an easy source of information, but not scientific. So do not use Wikipedia for scientific references. But since that I'm asking for something simple, straightforward, which is the definition of market, I thought about getting it to you through Wikipedia because it is simple and not complicated. Before reading what's in here, a market in general is where buyers meet sellers over a product or a service or an input or anything that is to be exchanged between two parties or more, and there is a price for that. The price for the product comes usually from having a demand for the product and a supply of the product. The demand for the product is made by consumers, and the supply of the product is made by producers. This is the simple definition of a market according to Shireen, the person who is giving you that without going into the terminologies and the complications written on that slide. A market is simply I'm not going to say the place, because markets could be virtual and they could be physical. Physical, it means that they have an address. Okay, for example, like I told you the slide after that, Shedia vegetables and the fruit market, for example, located in Ibrahimiyya, Alexandria. This is a place where you go, you know the address, it's somewhere along the street where the tram is, and you go in Ibrahimiyya district or neighborhood, and then you know where the market is. Everybody knows where that market is, and buyers and sellers are located in that market. The sellers are always there selling vegetables and selling fruits. Okay, this is a market that has a physical address. Okay, a market that has a virtual address, it means that it is an imaginary market. It means there is no place. It means there is no address. Example is the wheat world market, oil world market. All these places do not have a place. But there is a market because there is a demand for the item, let us say oil. There is a supply for the item, let us say oil. And there is a price, a world price for the item, which is oil, and exchanges happen. The buyers pay money and the sellers receive money. Okay? Now this is a simple definition according to your instructor Shireen. But what is the market as written in Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia? It is a composition of systems, institutions, procedures, social relations or infrastructures whereby parties, the sellers and the buyers, engage in exchange. Exchange, it means somebody sells something to somebody else. Okay? This is a complicated definition that you do not need to actually to bother yourself, but definitely when you have a commodity or an input or anything that is subject to be sold, okay, and there is a demand for and there is a supply of, then it has to be within a system, and there must be some institutions, and there must be procedures, which is the methods through which the selling and the buying happens. Social relations depends on the country you are talking about and the product you are talking about and the type of market you are talking about, and infrastructure, which are the facilities that enable the sellers and buyers to exchange the commodities. Okay? Here they say that while parties may exchange goods and services by barter. Barter, what is barter here? Barter, this was an old system before money existed. Okay, we call it barter exchange. Barter, it means you exchange a commodity for another commodity. In the past, before the invention of money, people were using barter exchange. Let us say I have some milk, you have some wheat, I give you some milk and you give me some wheat in exchange. There was no money in that case circulated between the seller and the buyer because there was no money to start with. Okay? Inshallah, when you get into the Department of Economics and Agribusiness, you will know the money and the banking and the theory of money and the history of money and how money was initiated and all these kind of things. But barter exchange is the type of exchange for a commodity, or a service for a service, or a service for a commodity, or a commodity for a service. Okay? For example, let us say if I teach you, for example, let us say that your father is a butcher, okay, sells meat. And if I go to teach you a class, so I go there, teach you a class, and your father gives me 1 kilogram of meat for free. This is called the barter exchange. And this was happening historically. So here we say that while parties, these are the entities involved in the exchange of goods and the services process. Okay, they might exchange by barter without money. Most markets, remember, barter also almost disappeared worldwide. Most markets rely on sellers offering their goods or services. These are the sellers, okay, to buyers in exchange for money. Usually, when I sell something for somebody else, usually I sell an item and I receive money. This is what is happening worldwide now, actually, ever since the money was initiated. It can be said that a market is a process by which the prices of goods and the services are established. This is very important. Okay, what is the importance of a market? As you will see later on, a market is a place where the prices of goods and the services are to be determined based on the collective demand for the item and the collective supply of the item. Okay, the collective demand for the item and the collective supply of the item. So we have a price. For example, the prices that you see in the market when you go to buy an item, it is supposedly based on assuming a competitive market, as we will see the types of markets later on. Okay, markets facilitate trade. Okay, definitely, because there is market, the process of selling and buying becomes easy, and they enable the distribution and resource allocation in a society. Remember, based on what is resource allocation here, they tell you where are the factors of production will go. Factors of production will go towards where the money is. If the item is sold for a higher prices, be sure that the resources will go to the production of that item. If a certain item is sold for lower prices, be sure that the factors of production will go to another product that will sell nicely and it will have a high prices. Okay, just like when you graduate and you get into a job. Okay, if you have two jobs, one of them pay more than the other, usually you go to the one that pays more. It is the same thing for resources. Resources go where the product sold or the item sold is sold for a high price. Okay, markets allow any tradable item to be evaluated on the prices. As we said that in a market, a price of an item is determined. Okay. A market emerges, again, this is a continuation from the place we got from Wikipedia. A market emerges more or less spontaneously. It means that you can get the market, you can find the market coming up immediately, okay, by itself, by nature, okay, due to the fact that there is a demand for something and a supply of something, and the people want to exchange. Okay, or it may be constructed. It means humans make it. Okay, there is no market, but we will initiate the market. Deliberately, it means intentionally. Okay, not by coincidence, by human interaction in order to enable the exchange of rights, ownership. Who owns the item? Okay, so markets in general could be spontaneously, naturally made. Okay, because there is a demand for something and a supply of something, and there is a desire to exchange that item, or people initiate the market. Markets could be physical, as I said here. The market has an established address, like Shedia vegetable and the fruit market in Ibrahimiyya, Alexandria, Egypt, or virtual, okay, imaginary, no street address, no physical location, like the world oil market or the wheat oil market, okay, etc., because we have so many things like that. This is a simple definition of what a market is. What is a market structure? Market structure is the interconnected characteristics of a market. Okay, what is market structure? It means that what defines the type of the market. This is market structure. Okay? For example, the number and relative strength of buyers and sellers. How many buyers do we have for the item? How many sellers do we have for the item? How strong are the buyers in the exchange process, or how strong are the sellers in the exchange process? Okay, suppose that you want to get into the market. How easy you can get into the market, how easy you can get out of the market if you want. Okay, how prices are determined in the market is determined by the sellers or the buyers or collectively. Okay, The level and forms of competition. Do we have so many producers producing that item and that item is sold in a market or not? Okay, how much products are differentiated from each other? For example, an example to tell you about product differentiation. For example, look at the watermelon that you see in the market. Okay, all the watermelons almost look alike. The producers of a certain watermelon, they will not be able to tell you that this is my watermelon. Here, the product differentiation is very weak. Easy to enter the industry or to get into the market. Okay, suppose that I want to become, let us say that a producer of mobile phones. How easy it is to be one like that. Okay, suppose that I was a producer of mobile phones and I want to get out of the industry. I don't want to become a producer of mobile phones anymore. How easy it is to go out. All these characteristics, as we will see it later on when we define that the perfectly competitive market, because this is the most important type of market that we will be talking about, you will see that these are the number of buyers and sellers in simple words, how many they are, how homogeneous the product is. This is product differentiation, how easy it is to get into the market, how easy it is to get out of the market, how also the information. Is information available to everybody? Do we have information transparency or we don't? All this define what is known as the market structure. Okay? The types of market structures include here. These are the types of markets that we have. Okay? Number one is perfectly competitive market or perfect competition. Number two is called the monopoly or monopolistic market. Number three is called the monopolistic competitive market. Number four is called the oligopoly market or oligopolistic market, and duopoly. And I will talk about all those later on. Perfect competition, we call it, as we will see it, التنافس التام. Monopoly, we call it الاحتكار. Monopolistic competition, we call it التنافس الاحتكاري. Oligopoly بنسميها احتكار القلة. وديوبولي بنسميها الاحتكار الثنائي. It means you have only two producers. Okay, but again, I'm sorry for the African students or for the students who do not know English, do not know Arabic, sorry, but we will explain that later on. I'm just telling the Arabic students because they are the majority, the meaning of that in Arabic, because most people do not know what that is. Okay, again, I'm going to explain that in English later on in this slide. Market structure is best defined as the organizational and other characteristics of the market. Actually, which are this part right here? As I told you, and we will cover it again when we talk about what are the main characteristics of the perfectly competitive market. These are the types of market. Again, I got that from my notes. We have different types of markets. The perfectly competitive market, sometimes they call it the market system, sometimes they call it the free system, sometimes they call it the free market system. All of them are the same. Okay? And then we have the monopolistic market, we call it monopoly, or the oligopolistic market, we call it oligopoly, or the duopolistic market, we call it duopoly, or the monopolistic market, we call it monopoly. Oh, sorry, the monopolistic market we call it monopoly. Okay. يبقى عندنا سوق التنافس التام perfectly competitive market, monopolistic competitive market اللي هو سوق التنافس الاحتكاري, oligopoly اللي هي oligopolistic market we call it احتكار القلة, some producers يعني usually not more than 20. Duopolistic market means you have two. It comes from the word do. Do it means two. Okay. Remember Batman and Robin. Okay, باتمان and Robin الوطواط وذكور زي ما بيقولوا بالعربي. ده dynamic do يعني ايه؟ يعني الثنائي العجيب. Okay, it comes from the word duopoly. Here it means that we have only two producers. And the monopolistic market, which means you have only one producer. It comes from the word mono. Do you know stereo and mono type of music? Mono, it means that it comes from one speaker. Stereo, it means that the sound coming out of the two speakers is different. It's a stereo. Okay. There is also a sixth type of market, as I said here, that are related to selling and buying of inputs only or factors of production. If you are talking about a type of market that talks about having a certain monopolist, okay, only one producer that is monopolizing the input market, we call that type of market, we do not call it monopoly, we call it monopsony, which is monopoly of the input market. Okay. As I said here, which is a monopolistic market, but for inputs only, not for outputs. Okay, the word is called the monopsony, which is monopoly, but in the input market. Now I'm going to talk about the first one and the most important one, which is perfect competition. Now, what is perfect competition? Here, all firms, imagine when I talk about perfect competition, imagine agriculture. the industry of agriculture. All firms sell an identical product. As I told you, when we produce meat, all meat producers produce identical meat. Okay? What do I mean by identical meat? The producers themselves cannot say that, oh, the meat in the market, this is my meat. It came from my farm. They cannot do that, which applies to tomatoes, cucumbers, watermelon, bananas, and everything else. That's why you see stickers on the bananas, just to tell you that it comes Chiquita, for example. Okay? And so on. All firms are price takers. It means that the firms, okay, cannot determine the price of whatever they are selling. They take their products to the market, okay, and the prices of their products will be determined based on the collective demand for the product and the collective supply of the product. If there is a lot of the product supplied, given a constant demand, the price drops. If there is little demand for the product, a lot of demand for the product and little supply of the product, then the price will go up. And vice versa, and things keep happening and changing over time. But in general, firms, which are the producing entities of any item, they take prices as it is. It varies from one moment to the other, one day to the other, 1 hour to the other, depending on what you are talking about. All firms have a relatively small market share. Here, what does it mean, market share? Market share, let us say, for example, relatively market share, it means that their powers are very, very limited, if at all. They do not have, producers have no powers at all in determining anything. Okay, they take their products to the market and they pray to God that the prices are good today. Okay, market share, it means that, let me tell you an example. For example, in the fragrance market, in the perfume market, market share in that case, let us say market share of Nina Ricci. Market share of Nina Ricci is the percentage of people who buy only Nina Ricci products out of everything that is sold in the perfume market. Okay, so market share of Nina Ricci talks about how many people, what is the percentage of people who buy Nina Ricci products in the perfume market. Okay, the higher that percentage is, the more powerful Nina Ricci is. Okay, powerful in doing what? Nina Ricci as a firm, a perfumery, can change the price that it sells their products at whatever thing they like. Every company aims at increasing its market share, because when you increase your market share, it means that you increase your power as a producer. Let us, for example, imagine the telecommunication industry, where we have Vodafone, Etisalat, Orange, and We. Okay, which one has the highest market share? Of course, all of you guys know it is We. Okay, how did you know? It is so simple. Okay, because actually We is providing services or sub-provider of services to the other three companies, Etisalat, Vodafone, and Orange. Okay, out of the people who are using the telecommunication industry, okay, the percentage of people who are utilizing We services is the highest. So we say that We as a company, or TE Egypt, or whatever, TE Data, or whatever it was, now it's called We, it has a high market share. Hopefully you understood that. In the perfectly competitive market, every producer has a very, 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 very small market share, if at all. Okay, why so many people? So many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of producers, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of consumers. Products cannot be differentiated from each other. My tomatoes is the same as other people's tomatoes. Anybody can get into the industry and produce tomatoes. Anybody can get out of the industry. Nobody cares. Okay, and anybody who wants to know information about the product can obtain it at ease. There are no secrets. Okay. Buyers know the nature of the product being sold and the prices charged by each firm, because it is displayed in the market and everybody knows about it. It is based on the collective demand or aggregate demand and aggregate demand for the product, or collective demand for the product and aggregate supply of the product. The industry is characterized by freedom of entry and exit. Okay, it means that anybody who wants to be a producer will become a producer. Anybody who doesn't want to be a producer can leave with no problem. Sometimes we call perfect competition, sometimes we call it pure competition. It is the same thing. I'm going to summarize that to you later on using my notes. Characteristics of the industry of agriculture, because it is the only thing right now. The industry of agriculture is probably the only industry right now that is characterized as being perfectly competitive, according to the theoretical definition of perfect competition. Agriculture is a fragile industry and a risky business. Fragile, it means that anything can affect the industry, okay? Just like a baby, just like an infant. An infant can get sick, can die very quickly, okay? Also, an old person is the same thing, fragile, vulnerable to death, vulnerable to diseases. Agricultural is a fragile industry. It means that you need to take very good care of your product, otherwise you will not have a product. If you are producing, for example, citrus and some frost happens, you will lose the whole crop. If you have growing chicken and it did not, and there was a cold spell, all your chicken will die. Okay, if there is a disease that spreads, everything will be gone with the wind. Okay, so this is called fragile, and as a result, it is a risky business. You can make a lot of money, and also you can make a lot of losses. Okay, because it is an open air industry. It is produced in the open air, so whatever happens in nature will affect your product, no matter how clever you are. Now I'm going to talk about the characteristics of the industry of agriculture one by one. There is a time lag between the moment the farmer starts to grow a crop and the moment the farmer receives the crop. Okay? If you are using traditional agriculture, I mean agriculture outside of the greenhouses, soap, then you need 3 months to grow vegetables and the cucumbers, which are the fastest to grow out of everything that is produced in agriculture. I'm talking about plants, not animals. Okay? So there is a time lag. Okay, suppose that, what is the impact of that on agriculture? Suppose that I found that the tomatoes are sold for a very high price or this month in Shedia market in Alexandria, and I am a tomato producer. By the time I go and try to raise tomatoes and produce tomatoes, inshallah, by the time tomatoes will come to existence, which will take like 3 months, I do not know what the price will be. And if every producer did the same thing and wanted to produce tomatoes, inshallah, the price of tomatoes will drop dramatically. So here we have a time lag between the moment the producer starts to grow something and the moment the consumers see that something that is produced. Number two, consumers' response to price changes of agricultural and the food products is very low, if at all. Okay? Why? Simply because we cannot live without food. Okay? Suppose that your mother went to the market to buy some vegetables. Okay, and suppose that she was planning to buy 2 kilograms of tomatoes, but she found tomatoes are expensive today. Do you think your mother will say, "Oh, forget about tomatoes, I'm not going to buy tomatoes at all, I'm going to go home"? She has to buy tomatoes because without tomatoes she will not be able to cook anything. Okay, she might not buy 2 kilograms, she might only buy a kilo or a kilo and a half, but she will buy the product. Here the consumer's response to any price change will be very minimal, because we cannot live without the items that is usually produced through agriculture, which is the majority of them are food. Okay? Here I put something technical. It is a little harder for you to understand, which we call it the own price elasticity. For most food product is characterized as being very low. It means the response of the quantity demanded of tomatoes to changes in its own prices, which is the price of tomatoes, is very, very, very weak. Why? Because we need tomatoes. Okay? We say that the demand for most food product is price inelastic. It means it does not respond to price changes. Or, to be more correct, responds to price changes but in a very weak manner. Okay, let me tell you an example. For example, potable water, for example. Potable water. Like Nestle or whatever you buy, or Siwa or whatever you buy, or Al Hayat or whatever you buy in terms of potable water. The bottles. Suppose that you cannot drink water from the tap, and suppose the price of potable water went up. Do you think you're going to decide I'm not going to drink water at all? Okay, definitely not, because you will die. Okay, this is something that is we cannot live without, which is potable water. Okay, remember again, assuming that you cannot drink water from the tap. I know that in Egypt we can drink water from the tap and do not die, but in so many other countries, okay, if you drink water from the tap, and they warn you, actually the government warns you, never drink water from the tap, because if you do, you will die. Okay, this is a technical thing, the own price elasticity of demand. Okay, but it is actually a measure of the responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a certain product, let us say tomatoes, to changes in its own price. If the price of tomatoes go up by 100%, what will happen to the quantity demanded? The quantity demand might go down by 95%. Very weak. Okay? But if you look for something else, let us say, for example, something like meat, beef. If the price of beef went up by 100%, be sure that the quantity demanded of beef will go down by probably more than 50%. Why? There is no need to eat beef. We can live without beef. Okay? But something like salt, like vegetables, like fruits, we cannot actually live without it. Okay? Otherwise, you will eat, or something like bread. And suppose that the price of bread doubled. What do you think will happen to the quantity demanded of bread? Probably nothing will happen. Or a very small reduction in the quantity demanded of bread. This is called the own price elasticity of the product, which is how responsive the quantity demanded of a product is to its own price changes. Climate is a very important factor that affects agricultural product. Of course, all of us know that. We don't need to talk about that. That's why we have greenhouses. Why do we have greenhouses? Why do people invest a lot of money to have greenhouses? Why our government right now, the government of Egypt, spends a great deal of money to build the greenhouses in order to avoid the bad impacts of climate. Okay? So we know that climate is a very important factor affecting agricultural and the food production. Farmers' income fluctuate with market prices. We know that already. If the product the farmers sell is sold for higher prices, incomes of farmers will go up. If the product the farmers produced is sold for low prices, incomes of farmers will go down. Okay? And since that the producers cannot determine the price of their products because the prices of the products are determined in the perfectly competitive market and in agriculture in particular based on the collective powers of demand and supply, as a result, nothing is guaranteed. If demand is high, supply is constant, price will go up. If the demand is low and the supply is constant, the price will be very little. If the demand is constant and supply is a lot, then the price will go down. If demand is constant and the supply goes down, then the price will go up. Okay? As I said here, that is, high market prices result in high farmers' income and the vice versa. The dream of any farmer is for him or for her is to produce. This is a mistake, by the way. It's for her, huh? Here, not he. To produce a maximum amount of the product. Okay, every individual producer, every individual farmer wants to produce as much as possible. Dreaming that other producers will not do the same. Because if other producers do the same, inshallah, all of them will lose money. Because the supply will go up. Given constant demand for food, the price will go down. Okay? So my dream as an agricultural producer is that I produce a lot of my product and the other farmers do not do the same. Okay? Because if they do the same, the supply will go up. Given that demand is usually constant in the short run, then the price of the product will drop and every producer will lose. Agriculture is probably the only industry that could be characterized as being perfectly competitive. It's a fact. If you want to know what is the industry that has so many producers, so many consumers, homogeneous products, it's very hard to distinguish the product of that producer from the same product of the other producer. Tomatoes of Ahmed and the tomatoes of Ali, they are the same. Easy entry to the industry. If you want to become a farmer, nobody will ever stop you. If you want to quit farming, nobody even cares. And access to information. If I want to know equal access to information, whatever I want to know in terms of information, anybody else can get for free. Actually, all what I need to do is to ask my neighbor about how much is the tomato sold today in the market. Everybody will tell you. Even in America, by the way, before the existence of the internet, the radio, every farmer has a radio and they tell them in the radio, there is an agricultural channel where they tell them what prices are today. Okay? So there are no surprises. So information is available to everybody if you want to know a piece. There is a huge transparency, no secrets. Okay? The price elasticity of supply is low. What is the price elasticity? So it is exactly the opposite of the price elasticity of demand. It is a measure of the responsiveness of the quantity supplied of, let us say, a certain product, let us say tomatoes, to its own price changes. Okay? Suppose that a producer found out that the price of tomatoes are very high, sold for very high in Alexandria. By the time, inshallah, he will go to produce tomatoes, it will take him 3 months. Okay? So the response of the farmers to seeing higher prices okay, is very, very weak because there is a time lag between production and the consumption. So the price elasticity of supply is low because the response of the quantity supplied of any good or agricultural product to its own price changes is very, very low because the time lag between production and consumption. Okay, I'm going to repeat the same thing here. Okay, what I said here, what I said before, I'm going to say it again in a different language. In a perfectly competitive market, in agriculture, we have the following: large number of buyers and sellers. Okay, how large is large? It means that the share of any individual producer or any individual consumer is negligible, if at all. It means that you as a consumer has no weight whatsoever in the market of any agricultural or food product. You do not exist. Suppose that you do not like the price of meat, so you decide that you're gonna not consume meat. Do you think the price of meat will go down? Actually, nothing will happen. In order for the price of meat to go down, that probably half of the country has to decide not to buy meat. Okay, and the same thing for producers. Once they produce an item and it goes into the market, they pray to God it is sold for high. Somebody will tell me, Doctor, meat prices are expensive. Meat prices are expensive because the demand for meat is higher than the supply of meat. Okay, that's why our government right now is trying to have lots of veal and the cattle and the sheep projects that will increase the amount of supply of meat into the market. Here, that is, no individual consumer or any individual producer can control the price. They are all price takers. Okay, nobody can control the quantity demanded. Nobody can control the quantity supplied. Homogeneous products. I'm repeating what I said before. Once the products are in the market, no producer can claim that this product is his or hers. Okay, I grew watermelon, my watermelon or bananas, and it went to the market. Do you think that once it went to the market, I will never be able to say that this is Shireen's bananas, for example? Easy entry and exit from the industry. Anybody who wants to become a farmer can become a farmer. Nobody cares. Any farmer who wants to quit farming can leave. Nobody cares. Why? Because you are one of 100,000 of hundreds of thousands of producers. Equal access to information. If you want to know whatever I want to know in terms of information in the agricultural industry, anybody else can know. No secrets. Okay? Actually, they are published everywhere. I'm talking about prices and everything else. Even weather, they tell you, hey, Gamma, there is a storm coming. Okay. Item number 1 here, I'm going to explain that, tells you that we have so many agricultural producers to the extent that no single producer can control the market. So the prices for any agricultural product are determined by the powers of supply and demand. Supply, it is what producers produce. Demand is what consumers demand or consume. The powers of supply and demand are made by all farmers collectively. Okay? Sorry, the powers of supply are made by all farmers. The powers of demand are made by all consumers collectively. Okay? So any price you get for an agricultural product cannot be over or under price. It will be just about right. Okay? Demand meeting supply. If you are a producer operating in a perfectly competitive market, you definitely want to maximize your profit, which is the difference between your revenues and your costs, given the inputs that you have. The only way you can do that in a perfectly competitive market is to work on minimizing your average cost of production. Okay, because remember, you cannot control the price of your product, but you can control the cost of production of your product. Okay, so if an item is sold for 10 pounds a kilogram, if it costs me on average to produce that kilogram 7 pounds, it means that when I sell it in the market, I will put 3 pounds into my pocket. Suppose that the product is anyway priced at 10 pounds a kilogram, but my average cost of production is 9.5 pounds a kilogram. It means that for every kilogram I sell, I put into my pocket only half a pound. So here we have an incentive for all producers to be efficient, okay? If they want to make money. You have to work on your cost side because you cannot control the price of the product, and as a result, you cannot control the revenue side, okay? This is because no matter how much it costs you to produce a single unit of a product, you will sell it anyway at the existing market price. You are a price taker as a producer. You cannot control the price. So the only way for a farmer or for an agricultural producer is to make money. The only way for him or her to make money is to work on lowering the average cost of production, which is the cost of producing the single unit of the product. So we say that producers who operate in a perfectly competitive market are unlucky or miserable. Why unlucky or miserable? Because they take prices as is. They cannot control prices. Okay. If they want to make money, they have to work on their costs of production. If they are not efficient, if they are inefficient, they will get out of business. On the other hand, the consumers who buy products from a perfectly competitive market are extremely lucky. Why? Because they will never buy a product that is overpriced. Okay? This is because they never pay any money beyond that which covers the average cost of production for the producers collectively. For anything that you find that a product, as we know that farmers make very little money from selling items. Somebody will tell me, Doctor, the agricultural products and food products are sold for very high prices in Alexandria. This is thanks to the mediators, the middlemen, the marketers, not thanks to the producers. The producers are miserable and the poor. They sell their products very cheap to the intermediaries, the marketers, the middlemen, the wholesalers, the retailers, and the retailers rip you off and they steal your money. Okay? Of course, we must have government control in order to avoid these things, and alhamdulillah, these things these days are going in the right direction, at least in Egypt. Okay? For point number 2, any agricultural product looks exactly, which is homogeneous products. Okay? Like any other agricultural product. A farmer cannot come and say the tomatoes in the market are my own tomatoes. It's very, very hard. Impossible to do that. Point number 3, anybody, remember, easy entry to the industry, easy exit from the industry. Anybody wants to become a farmer can become a farmer. Anybody who doesn't want to become a farmer, he can leave farming. Nobody cares. In agriculture, it is very easy to know any piece of information, and the only way for a farmer not to know that piece of information is because he or she does not want to. I do not want to know the prices, I do not want to know the weather, I do not want to know anything at all. Okay, this is the only way for you not to know information. Government intervention in agriculture is very high in all countries of the world, USA included, since agriculture provides basic products and food, and nobody can live without food. Okay? And if governments leave food prices high, people will demonstrate and the governments will collapse. Okay? And they will not be re-elected again in democratic societies. Okay? And here I give you an example. The GATT, which is the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, which is now known as the WTO or World Trade Organization, was initiated originally because of agriculture. Okay? Agriculture is a main component, and all the agreements took a long time to happen because of the complications in the agriculture, because governments in general of all countries in the world are protecting their agriculture producers, whether they claim that or they don't claim that. Okay, this is a long story. There is no need to go for it, but at least this is something I just said it because I have to say it. Examples of perfect competition: the market for potatoes. Potatoes are sold in markets where all vendors sell homogeneous products at homogeneous prices. Homogeneous prices means exact prices. Homogeneous products means exact products. Example, potato is sold at markets, etc., where all vendors, people who sell the tomatoes, sell homogeneous products, which is the tomatoes. Okay. Actually, all the agriculture, all the food that you see is an example of perfect competition. Now we come to monopoly. By the way, in our analysis of the course and all the courses that you will study with anybody in the undergraduate stage, except in the advanced levels, if you get into the economics and agribusiness department, we assume the existence of a perfectly competitive market. Please. As long as I did not specify the type of the market in which the product is exchanged in, it means by definition it is a perfectly competitive market. Monopoly, we have now one producer, one and only. First of all, monopolies are prohibited by law. Monopolies are prohibited by law. Okay? It means that if you see a single producer, there is no single producer of an item. If you have a single producer of an item and that single producer is still alive in the country, it means that you have corruption in the country. So a monopoly in the market is a market structure in which there is only one producer. The word mono, remember. Okay? One producer or one seller of a product. In other words, the single business is industry. Okay? It means that the firm is the industry. The individual firm is the industry. Entry into such a market is restricted. Okay, suppose that you saw that this monopolist is making a lot of money and you want to become a monopolist. It will be very, very hard. Okay, because there are so many ways that monopolist, assuming that there is a monopolist in practicality, and there isn't. Okay, even for the case of steel in Egypt, we have more than a monopolist. We have duopoly, حديد عز وحديد الدخيلة, and all these kind of things. Okay. Entry into such a market, if you want to become a producer, is restricted. You cannot, due to the high costs or other impediments, obstacles, okay, problems, barriers that they will put for you. Okay, these obstacles or barriers or impediments could be economic or social or political or all of them. Okay, it means simply you cannot become another producer. The monopolistic market is a type of market where the provider of the good or service is only one entity. It is prohibited by law in all countries of the world. This producer can charge consumers whatever price he or she wants. Okay? This is since he or she is the only provider of the commodity. Monopolies of all types are prohibited by law in almost all countries of the world. Okay? Usually in economic analysis, when we talk about optimality conditions and the economic analysis, assuming a perfectly competitive market, we contrast that to the case of monopoly. Okay, but monopolies in general, just to know the difference between the two types of market and how prices are determined. But this is a long story in economics, not the place. The place for that is not here. Examples of monopoly: Gillette razor blade. Gillette is a razor blade that enjoys monopoly in market because every consumer purchases this brand and this is trusted brand. Okay, Gillette Mac 3 Turbo Sensitive and Gillette Fusion are latest version of that. Okay, actually it is not a monopoly because it is sort of oligopoly, but assuming that as if this is a Gillette razor blade is the best in the world, then we can claim that Gillette is a monopoly, but actually it is not. It is a kind of oligopoly because we have similar producers to that. Not many, but similar producers. But again, he has to put an example, and it is very hard to put an example for monopoly because monopolies are prohibited by law. But this is something close to being a monopoly. Now we come to monopolistic competition, اللي هي المنافسة الاحتكارية. It is a type of imperfect competition because we have perfect competition. It is a perfectly competitive market, such that one or two producers sell products that are differentiated from one another as goods, but not perfect substitutes. Okay, for example, different branding, different quality, different location. Here we are having a type of imperfect competition. Okay. This type of analysis in economic theory is very complicated, but here I just want you to know what does it mean monopolistic competition. Here we have at least two producers, okay, producing different items, and these items are differentiated from each other. They are not the same. Okay, they do not look the same. Okay, different quality, different brand, different location, anything like that. In monopolistic competition, a firm takes the prices charged by its rivals as given. Let us say my rivals, normal competitors. I produce an item, and there are people producing also that item. Okay. Now I take that prices as given. It means I cannot change them. I cannot change these prices, and I ignore the impact of its own price on the prices of other firms. I imagine that I work on isolation. Actually, here it is very hard to explain this kind of thing without talking about curves and economic analysis, which is not the place for it. Okay. But monopolistic competition is a kind of monopoly plus competition at the same time, okay, where you cannot change the prices of your competitors, okay, and you take them as given, and you produce items that do not look exactly like the items produced by your competitors, whether because you have different brands or different quality, or you sell your items in a location that are different from the locations where your rivals or your competitors sell their product at. Consumers may like some special thing in the particular brand, and that's why they buy a certain brand over another certain brand. Okay, monopolistic competition means that there are a considerable number of buyers and the sellers of the product. We have a lot of buyers and product, but not that a lot. Okay, we have example of that is almost everything that you buy. Almost everything that you buy is a monopolistic competition. As I said here, example of this market is almost anything that you buy except the food products. Okay, the majority of items that you buy comes actually either from perfectly competitive market. This is agricultural and food products. Monopolistic competition, everything else. Okay, plus some of this monopolistic competition gets into the other type. I'm going to talk about it in a moment, which is oligopoly. Okay, examples of monopolistic competition: shoes, for example. Shoes are produced by many producers, but consumers may feel that a particular company is branded better, or the quality produced by one company is better than the other. Different companies' shoes can be easily differentiated, and despite differentiation, each product remains a close substitute for the rival product. Remember, a shoe, after all, is a shoe. Okay, but we have different brands, and as a result, different prices. This is an example. Actually, automobiles is the same thing, and all this kind of perfumes. Perfumes is oligopoly between oligopoly and oligopoly. Actually, not monopolistic competition, but automobiles is monopolistic competition. Also oligopoly. Example of furniture, monopolistic competition, TVs, and all these kind of things are like that. There is no pure competition here. Shoes come under monopolistic competition because there are many producers and consumers choose according to the brand, quality, location, trademark, design, color, packaging, etc., and not on the basis of prices only. When you choose an item that is produced in a perfectly competitive, in a monopolistic competitive market, it means that you choose it based on either the location, the quality, the brand, the design, the trademark, the color, the packaging, and not only on the price. Duopoly. Two producers and two producers only. It comes from the word duo, the dynamic duo, Batman and Robin. A situation in which two companies own all or nearly all of the market for a given product or service. Duopoly means a market which two producers only control the market. The word duo is important, two only. Monopolistic competition is not like that. We have many rivals, many competitors. It is a specific type of oligopoly. Okay, oligopoly means that some producers, usually not more than 20. But in that case, for duopoly, it is only two, where only two producers exist in one market. In reality, this definition is generally used where only two firms have dominant control over the market. They are controlling the market. Hadid Azz wa Hadid al-Dakhil. Okay? This is an example of duopoly in our country here. In the field of industrial organization, it is the most commonly studied form of oligopoly due to its simplicity. When you try to study oligopoly, the easiest, it's exactly when you try to study monopoly, the easiest is monopoly itself. Okay? Examples of duopoly, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Okay? Two producers. Remember, Pepsi produces so many products that follow the Pepsi company. And the Coca-Cola produces so many products that follow the Coca-Cola company. In the market, Pepsi and the Coca-Cola rule in soft drinks. So they come under duopoly. Other soft drinks are also there, but these two companies cover large share in soft drinks market. The majority of people, if you ask them what do you drink, they tell you either Pepsi or Coca-Cola. An example of duopoly. What is oligopoly? احتكار القلة, some producers. As I said here, remember if you look at this definition, this is my definition. Oligopoly is a type of market where there is a limited number of producers, not to exceed 20, who control the market. Fragrance market, okay, computers market, TV market, and electric appliances, probably furniture. Okay, it is a situation in which a particular market is controlled by a small group of firms. An oligopoly is a market form in which a market or industry is dominated by a small number of sellers. We call them the oligopolists because there are few sellers. Each oligopolist is likely to be aware of the actions of the other because they have so few competitors. Nina Ricci knows what Givenchy is making, and so on. Okay, oligopoly, the decisions of one firm influence and are influenced by the decisions of other firms. When Nina Ricci thinks of changing something in the prices or in the quality, the company puts in its head what other competitors are doing. Examples of that, this is the last slide. Maggi noodles, Sunfeast Yippee Magic Noodles, Horlicks Foodless, Knorr, Soupy Noodles, and all these kind of things. These companies produce instant noodles, okay, that you have right here. Earlier, Maggi used to enjoy monopoly in this sector, but with the entry of other three companies, Maggi now comes as an oligopoly. Okay, these four companies majorly rule the market in instant noodles. Okay, so they come in the oligopoly. These are examples, guys, of the types of market. Here in these types of classes, we defined what a market is, we define what a market structure is, we define the different types of markets, okay? We define the characteristics of the different types of markets, and the most important of which is the perfectly competitive market. Why? Because agriculture is the only industry probably that could be called a perfectly competitive industry. And this is it for that set of slides. Hopefully that was of benefit to you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.